Hello students, let's continue with our revision on commerce subject. Today we have a revision on the topic known as stock exchange, and the subtopic will be Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange. Our topic is stock exchange. Subtopic So our subtopic will be Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange. My name is Mtinga Kengera, a commerce teacher. Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange is a specialized market for different securities. Or a stock exchange is a sectional market for different securities. So shares and other securities for the first time are issued in primary market. So a capital market has two main markets, which are primary market and secondary market. So stock exchange are found in the secondary market. So here is where we have a stock exchange. So stock exchange is a secondary market for different securities. So securities for the first time are issued at primary market. Then if someone who bought shares in the primary market is in need of selling those securities, being shares or other securities, he can sell in secondary market, which is stock exchange. So the Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange is here in secondary market. So our main parts to be covered today for this revision will be the following. Number one is obtaining quotation. In stock exchange. Number two is functions of Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange. And number three is challenges are faced by Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange. And the last part of our revision will be a solutions for the challenges faced by Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange, or DSE. So DSE stands for Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange. So for today's revision, we will focus on these four areas. In the Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange, there are members who are operating in this market, and these are brokers. In other stock markets or in other stock exchange, there are both brokers and jobbers. But in the Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange, we have only brokers. Jobbers are not operating in this market yet. So we have brokers. But in other markets, there are jobbers. Brokers and jobbers are members who operate in stock exchange. But our market, the Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange, there are only brokers. For the time being, jobbers are not there. But these also are members in stock exchange. They are in other stock exchange like London Stock Exchange, Johannesburg Stock Exchange, or even New York Stock Exchange. These members are there. So brokers are agents. These act or operates as agents. When a member of public needs to buy shares or other securities, should pass through these brokers. So a member of public is not allowed to go direct and buy from jobbers or from stock exchange. So when you need of shares or other securities, you must pass through these brokers who act as agents. And they will do business on behalf of you. So members of public must pass through these members. And they are there just for the public. They are paid commission. So when they do a business on behalf of you, you have to pay them commission. But jobbers, in those markets in which they are operating, they operate in the same way as wholesale. They buy on their own account and then they sell for profit. So usually they buy one shares at low price, waiting for the time when those shares prices will rise, and then they sell for profit. So these ones are after profit, jobbers. But brokers are just given commission. And these, they operate on their own accounts, but brokers operate as agents. So those are the differences between brokers and jobbers. But something to note, in the Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange, there are only brokers. The market is not having jobbers for the time being. So hope you are clear with this, because some students do confuse. They think these two members are in the Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange. But just understand that for the time being, we have only brokers who are operating in the Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange. Maybe in the future, jobbers may start operating in DSE, but for the time being, they are not there. Another thing to remind you is the Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange is too young in comparison to those other big markets like New York Stock Exchange, Johannesburg Stock Exchange, London Stock Exchange, even Nairobi Stock Exchange. In East Africa, the largest market, or the largest stock exchange is Nairobi Stock Exchange. So our market is still young. When you make a comparison between our market and those big markets, then you can find these differences. We have less number of companies which have been listed or which have been quoted. But in those other markets like New York, they have a large number of companies which have been quoted. But in terms of products, in Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange, we have only two products, which are shares and bonds. But in other markets, like New York, Johannesburg, London, they have more than these two products. In bonds, we have only two types of bonds which are operated or which are traded in DSE or Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange, which are government bonds and corporate bonds or debenture. But in other markets, they have more than these. They have even municipal or university bonds or even hostel bonds. But in our market, we have only two types of bonds. But another difference based on the year the market started to operate. Our market started in 1998. But those other markets like New York, Johannesburg, they have been operating in many years back. So those are some of the distinctions between our market, Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange, and other markets like New York and Johannesburg, without forgetting London Stock Exchange. Those are the big markets, some of the big markets. There are other big markets, but those are just examples. So after having a vision on that, now let's have a look on quotation, obtaining quotation in stock exchange. Obtaining quotation in stock exchange, in short, this is a way where a company is applying and its shares be allowed to be traded in stock exchange. So a quoted company is the one which its shares are traded or other securities are traded in stock exchange. So a company in need of its shares to be traded in stock exchange should apply in stock exchange. So you apply in stock exchange council, and then after fulfilling some of the procedures and requirements, then your shares and other securities will be allowed to be traded in stock exchange. And this is what we call listed companies. So quoted companies is the same as saying listed companies. So their securities are traded or their shares are traded in stock exchange. So a question of interest here can be, what are the advantages of a company to be quoted or to obtain quotation in stock exchange? Or why should a company find ways, or why should companies find that opportunity of being quoted in stock exchange? Now here, are there any advantages for a company to be quoted in stock exchange? So my dear students, something to remind you. Only companies which can apply for quotation in stock exchange are public companies. Private companies are not allowed to be quoted in stock exchange. So what are those advantages which can be obtained by these public companies which are quoted in Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange? So what are these advantages, my dear students? So let's have a vision with you in this lesson to explain about these advantages of a company being quoted or obtaining quotation, or a company being listed. The following are the advantages of obtaining quotation in stock exchange. Number one is shares become easily transferable. Shares of a company which have been quoted, it means are allowed to be traded in stock exchange. And therefore, members of public can buy and sell those shares. If you bought shares in a primary market, as I've told you, that shares for the first time are issued in primary markets. So when you need to sell those shares, you may go or you may communicate with the Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange, and then you sell those shares. So shares are easily transferable or changing hands from one person to another person, or from one shareholder to another shareholder, or from one investor to another investor. So it's very easy because the market is there. You just sell your shares if you're in need of selling, or you may go and buy, or you may find ways where you can communicate to buy those shares. Another advantage is a quoted company is considered financially sound and reliable company. Those companies which are quoted in stock exchange, they must follow some procedures. There are procedures which must be fulfilled in order a company to be quoted in stock exchange. One of these procedures or requirements, a company should have an amount of capital in order to be quoted. There are a certain amount which is set by stock exchange for a company to be quoted. But also after a company being quoted, it's supposed to prepare its financial statements following international standards. But also a company which have been quoted must be audited by authorized auditors. And therefore, such a company is considered financially sound and reliable. So members of public will have confidence with such a company. Another advantage is the market value for shares is an indication of the progress of the company. Quoted companies, their share prices are quoted or are listed in every day. Every day you go in stock exchange, you find those prices. So this is an indication of the progress of the company. Where share prices are rising, it means the company is performing well. But when share prices are falling, it shows that this company or that company is performing poor. So share prices, which is listed in stock exchange, will help the public, but also the owners of the company to know the status of their company. So when shares are rising, good performance. But when shares are falling, poor performance. Another advantage is a quoted company gets relevant and important information. Now these companies who have been quoted in stock exchange are given a privilege of getting information in stock exchange. Information about economic progress or about statistics in different issues, especially in economic matters, are found in the Islam Stock Exchange. So these companies, when they need those information, they can get in the Islam Stock Exchange without any problem. Another advantage is it is for a quoted company to sell its shares for raising long-term finance. When a quoted company shares are easily sold in primary market, member public are confident of buying those shares which their companies have been quoted, knowing that when they will be in need of selling those shares, the market is there. So it is very easy for these companies, quoted companies, to sell their shares to raise capital, because those buyers or investors in those shares of those companies that have been quoted will be confident of selling in case they need to sell. So it is very easy for them to buy those shares. Another advantage is quoted companies are entitled to get some incentives from the government, for example, tax holidays. Now, these companies who have been quoted are supported by the government. The government is encouraging more companies to be quoted in the Islam Stock Exchange in order to give an opportunity for the public to invest in those companies. And therefore, the company provides some incentives to such companies which have been quoted, so that it may attract many more companies to quote in stock exchange. So those companies who have not yet quoted in stock exchange, after seeing these incentives, may also be attracted to quote in the Islam Stock Exchange. So the government is doing that in order to attract more companies to quote in stock exchange. So my dear students, those are the advantages. So a question of interest here can be, are there any disadvantages for this move of quotation, obtaining quotation? The answer is yes. Provided those advantages I have explained here, there are some few disadvantages of obtaining quotation in stock exchange. Number one is the company is required to abide by the stock exchange rules and regulations. Once you have been quoted as a company, you must abide to stock exchange rules and regulations. Now, some companies, this has become a problem to them. They see this as a burden. To follow all the rules and regulations is somehow difficult to some companies. So they see this as a problem, because you must operate according to rules and regulation. Number two is the company's secrets are disclosed to the general public, for example, through publication of financial statements. Now, once you have been quoted, you are required by the rules and regulation to publish your financial statements. to the public. And you must submit financial statements or reports to the Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange. And by doing so, as a company, you are exposing your assets, your profit, but also in those years of loss, your loss will be known by the public. So there's no way you can hide anything regarding your company. Everything will be open to the public. And this seems to be a problem to some companies. Some companies do not need their issues to be exposed. But once you have been quoted as a company, then everything will be open. Nothing to hide. So it seems as a problem to some companies. And number 3, our disadvantage is costs. In obtaining quotation, there are some costs to be involved. There are some procedures which must be followed. So it's costing in terms of time, but there are some money which you must pay as registration fee and other costs which you may incur. So there are some costs which must be incurred in the process of obtaining quotation. So these are the disadvantages, but we have also passed through the advantages. But when you compare advantages and disadvantages, you can see that companies should obtain quotation because you have more advantages of being quoted or of obtaining quotation in stock exchange. So I encourage more companies to be quoted in stock exchange to enjoy those advantages I have explained. But also you as a student, you should be a good ambassador to convince those owners of different companies to obtain quotation in stock exchange so that they can enjoy those advantages. Now, after this revision or explanation, let's have a look on the functions. What are the functions? Now, what are the main functions of Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange? What are the roles played by Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange? Or a question may be, what is the contribution of Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange to the economic development of our country? Because Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange is playing a great role to the economic development of our country. So, with this session or with this lesson, we will have a look on the functions or roles played by Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange. Now, number 1 is Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange provide a ready market for different securities, being shares or bonds. So in Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange, I have said before, once shares or bonds have been sold in primary market, when those holders of shares and bonds are in need of selling those shares or bonds, they just go to the Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange and they sell those shares. But when members of public are in need of buying shares or bonds, they just go in the Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange and there they can find those shares and bonds. So it provides a ready market for different securities, including shares and bonds. Number 2, the Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange set prices of different securities, including shares and bonds. Prices in stock exchange are set in the way of demand and supply. So every day you go in the Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange, you'll find prices of different securities, being shares and bonds. Also, the Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange provides necessary and important information. So different companies, once they are in need of different information, when they go there, they get this information. Member of public, when you need certain information, once you go there, you'll find those information. Even the government, when it's in need of a certain information, then will be obtained in the Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange. So the Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange collects different information, either on statistics on different companies, or economic growth, or economic statistics. So different informations are found in the Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange. Another function of the Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange is it acts as a barometer. It acts as a barometer to economic progress of the country. So stock exchange acts as a barometer to the economic progress of the country. It shows how the country's economy is progressing. So this regards the number of shares traded in the Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange. When there are many number of shares traded in stock exchange, it shows that the economy is performing well. But when the activities in stock exchange is somehow less, it shows that the country is not performing well economically. When prices of different companies' shares are rising, it shows that these companies are performing well, and therefore the economy is performing well. Another function is the Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange control activities of different quoted companies. So all companies have been quoted in the Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange. As I've said before, they must follow rules and regulation of the Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange. And therefore, the Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange must make sure that those companies are operating as they are required by those rules and regulation. And therefore, the DSE or the Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange keep an eye on those companies, the way they operate. They're supposed to be audited, and they're supposed to prepare their financial statements based on international standards, and they must do so. So the Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange keep an eye on those quoted companies. Another function is it provides advice to the investors. Those people I need to invest in the Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange. Members are there. For example, brokers are there to advise investors who are coming to buy different shares. So they advise you in which company to invest or what types of shares you have to buy. So before you buy different securities, you find these people who are members in Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange, and they will advise you in which security to invest in. So they give you an advice which will help you to make decision which will be beneficial to you as an investor. Another advantage is it provides a chance for a gain transferring of shares. So the Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange, it provides a chance for gain transferring of shares. It means that when you have some shares of a certain company and you are in need of selling those shares, now just go to the Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange. Now once you're there, you can sell those shares because there are some people who are in need of shares of such a company. You are in need to sell their shares. And then you can buy shares in a company you need. For example, you can be having shares of CRDB Bank, and you need to sell those shares so that you can invest. Let's say Simba Plastic Company. Just sell CRDB shares and then buy Simba Plastic Company. So this is very possible in the Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange. You can change. If you see that you need now to invest in a certain company, rather than a company you have been investing, it's simple, just sell those shares and then you buy shares from another company. Now these are the main functions of the Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange. Now as you can see these functions, now you can see how Dar es Salaam contributes to the economic development of a country. Because it provides a market for different securities. So members of the public may invest through this market. And companies also can easily raise capital, which is facilitated by the Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange. So you see the functions are giving the nation advantage. So the Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange, with these functions performed, it contributes much to the economic development of our country. So my dear students, this market is very, very important. The Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange is very, very important. As you see the functions performed by the Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange, and therefore you can see the contribution of this market to the country's economy. So the Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange is something you need to understand and to tell more people in this country to be aware, because most of Tanzanians are not aware with the Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange. So as you see these functions, this market is very, very important to you as a public member, but also to the companies, but to the government at large. After having a vision on the functions, now let's have a look on the challenges faced by the Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange. The Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange, as I've said before, is too young in comparison with those other big markets like New York and Johannesburg. Now, what are the challenges faced by the Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange? Now, the Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange is faced by the following challenges. Number one is lack of awareness. Many Tanzanians are not aware with this market. They lack knowledge on this market. I can ask you a question. Do you own any share in any company? Or ask your relative if he's aware with the Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange. So I'm sure many Tanzanians are not aware with this market. So many Tanzanians, when you ask them about the Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange, they know nothing. So awareness is a problem. Number two is less products traded in the market or in the Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange. In the Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange, we have only two products which are traded, which are shares and bonds. And bonds, you have only two types of bonds, being government bonds and corporate bonds. So this is the problem. We have few or less products traded in stock exchange. But other markets have more than these two products. But our market, the Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange, has only two products. Number three is few companies have been quoted or listed in the Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange. This is the main problem of this market. We have only few companies. Current number is 27. Having Tanzanian companies being 21, and these 6 companies are coming from Kenya. So we have less number of companies who have been quoted in the Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange. Another one is we have few number of experts in capital markets. So this has been a problem because you have less number of experts who are familiar with capital markets. And it's become a problem to give this information regarding the Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange because experts are few. So it become a problem to these people to spread this information about the Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange to a big number of Tanzanians who are available. So it's a problem to the Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange. These main problems cause the performance of the Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange not to be in its best level. So when you compare the performance of the Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange and other markets in the world, you can see that the Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange is lagging behind, or the Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange is not performing well in comparison to those other big markets. So my dear students, these are just challenges faced by the Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange. But there are also solutions for this. Number one is we should convince many companies to list in the Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange. The Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange management should convince or should prepare some programs which may be convincing different companies to list in the Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange. But also the government may assist the management of the Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange to convince companies who have not been quoted to quote in the Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange. But another solution is Another solution is to create awareness to the public. As I've said before, a large number of the public have no knowledge on Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange. So different programs like conducting different programs in television or through radio, but also in different colleges and universities. So these programs will create awareness to the public. Also, as a solution is Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange Management should open more branches in different regions so that people in those regions will be aware with Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange. Now, those workers who will be working in those branches will be in a position to tell those people and to give information to different people in different areas. As that, the public will be aware with Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange. Another one is to employ more experts. Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange Management should employ more experts who will be telling the mass or the public about Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange. Now, these people will be ambassadors, will be spreading this information to different people in the country about Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange. So once you have a large number of experts concerning a capital market or Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange, now these people will be giving this information to the public, and therefore the public will become aware with Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange. Now, after having the challenges and solutions, now let's have some few questions which will help us to understand these concepts. Now the question is, explain how Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange contributes to the economic development of a country. So we have discovered the main functions performed by Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange, or the roles performed by Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange. The question here is asking on the contribution of Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange to the economic development of a country. As you know, my dear students, after knowing the functions of Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange, you know that Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange provides a market for different securities. So this is one of the contribution that members of the public may sell or buy shares or may invest in different companies through Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange. But also different companies can easily raise or get capital through Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange, because it facilitates the selling of shares and other securities in primary market. The market provide necessary information, so it contributes. So information about economic progress are found there. But investors may change their investments. If somebody is having shares of a certain company, but now is in need of investing in another company, so such a person may sell those shares in stock exchange and then invest in another company. So this diversifies the economy. Instead of investing in only some companies, they may now invest in other companies. So this helps in boosting our economy. But also prices show how the companies are performing. So when prices are rising, then this is good for a company. But when prices are falling, now this is bad for the company. Now companies should find ways on how to improve their company's performance after having such an indicator of price falling. So this question may be asked in this way. So you refer on the functions, and then you relate those functions with economic development. So stock markets contribute much on economic development. So the answer here is the move is beneficial and is not a wastage of resources, and then explain those laws played by the Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange. Now let's come to another question. Another question, my dear student, is the performance of the Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange, DSE, is less compared to other stock exchanges like New York and Johannesburg Stock Exchange. Explain the main challenges faced by the Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange, DSE, and the ways to overcome those challenges. So the question demands you to explain the main challenges faced by the Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange. We have explained these challenges which are faced by the Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange. So you have to explain those challenges, like few number of companies listed or quoted, or less number of products traded in stock exchange, lack of awareness of the public. Now, those are some of the challenges. So you explain those challenges, and then after that, you have to give solutions for those challenges. As you have said here, that Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange management should create awareness to the public through different media. Of course, Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange has started doing so, but should do more than it has been doing. So do more than what is doing right now. So those are the challenges and solutions. So the question was just asking you to explain the challenges. And also, after the challenges, you have to give the solution for the challenges faced by the Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange. So, my dear students, this marks the end of our revision today, which where we have seen the Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange, and hope you are clear with this concept. Now you'll be comfortable in your exam. Wherever you get a question concerning these areas we have covered, you'll be comfortable on that. So I welcome you to the next lesson, where we'll be having a lesson on foreign trade on the part known as visible and invisible trade, as well as balance of payment and balance of trade. See you next time. Thank you.